Good day everyone, and welcome to another vlog for the Exodus 7 to 12 KJV project. In this vlog I have a few things to show you guys, but first of all we're getting back to the audio that we started with last week. I finished processing all of the audio that I recorded. There are a few things that I want to go back and check out, but let's just get to this first. So, as you can see on the screen, we have a cat meow, and we have some dog barking and that sort of thing. Now, the neighbor's cat keeps coming into our yard, and whenever the cat sees us coming, me and my dog, there's a meow that's like an excited, ooh, my friends, And the dog and the cat are actually friends at the moment. But it does enable me to get some cat noises. So this is what the neighbor's cat sounds like. Very noisy because it was kind of recorded at a distance. But this was a cleaner one. You can hear it's much closer. And it's interesting to me that this particular cat's meow kind of sounds like it goes up and down a keyboard. It's very rough. Listen to it again. Very interesting. Now, this is the cleanest result I've gotten so far for the cat. And it will probably be the final one used. Very cool sound. I kind of like it. It stops kind of flat, but it is actually the whole sound. If you stick it into a scene, you won't notice the cutoff. Now, I also got some dogs barking, which is not hard to find in any kind of suburb in South Africa. So this is what dog barking would be. Now you might be wondering, where in the world would that come into play? Now there's a section where God says that during the final plague in that night, not a dog will move its tongue against man or beast throughout the entire land of Egypt, to add to the fact that he is the Lord and that no one can go against him. So in the previous nights, for example, where God tells Moses, get up early in the morning and go speak to Pharaoh, he's here or he's there or whatever, this can actually be in the background. Because obviously they had dogs, otherwise they wouldn't be mentioned, and they barked a lot during the night, otherwise that wouldn't have been mentioned. So I have like a really close recording of a dog barking. You can even hear the gate a little bit there. But I also have one bark that's in the distance. I might go and record more because it would just make it easier to edit. Or you can just change the pitch a little bit, change some of the length, and just copy the barking pattern of the first one, that sort of thing. So anyway, I also have gotten some clean bird sounds, and not all were very clean. I only have one result that I'm like super happy with, but I do need to work on editing it and still refining the time at which I go to record it to get the best possible sound. So this is one that's one of my favorites. I skipped a little through it because it's like over 3 minutes long. You can still hear that there's some background noise in there, but it's not something that's like horribly annoying. If you play the bird sounds in the background, you would be very unlikely to notice it. And the sounds that do come in are not traffic noises. They're more like children, because we have like this primary school close by. So this is a higher quality one. You can hear that it's been cleaned, but if you're just hearing this as part of a whole soundscape, you'll barely notice the fact that it's clean because it will also be a lot lower in volume. So there's another one that has more buried birds in it. This one you will hear has also got more cleaning noises in it. So I also have one of specifically ibises. So this is what that bird sounds like. So this one has been denoised a bit, but not to the point of degrading the overall sound. So if you play this again in the distance and you kind of layer it over itself to resemble like a flock, because these do come in numbers, sometimes flying. I would guess between 10 and 30, flying together at the most that I've seen. But they don't really stay together. It's usually like small groups of 2 or 3 that kind of hang out. They're very jumpy, paranoid birds for some reason. Anyway, so that's just one of those things. And we also have some stick sounds. So I recorded the stick in a multitude of ways, and I also have to be honest that I feel like I put it off because of the danger of actually hitting my equipment with the stick, which would not be good because it's a stick that's approximately 6 feet tall and about 1 centimeter to 1.5 centimeters in diameter. So it is not a small stick. If you swing that thing as hard as you can to make a noise, you are going to make contact, and it is going to make a difference to whatever you're hitting. So I did kind of avoid that. So I do have a bit of a funny sound. As you can see, the one is labeled making contact, and it lists my tripod in there. So I'll definitely be playing you that one. But first of all, I want to focus on the sounds that are great for the video. So the first one is like an extreme slow motion. I love that grainy sound it's got. And then, of course, we have the stick's normal sound if you just swing the thing. Yeah, that's on loop. Thankfully, I didn't swing it like that. I would have broken a window or something. And then, of course, we have if you thin it out, the sound. If you make it like really fast, you get that thin stick whoosh kind of sound, and that sounds like this. Love it. Okay, so that was the thin stick. So now for the tripod. And now the way I was led was to put the microphone, which is also my phone, put it as low to the ground as possible so that there's as little chance of hitting it as possible. So I'll make like a diagram and show that on screen right now. To put it as low as possible to the ground without hitting it. The problem is that the legs were still kind of, pointing up too far. So when I went down, it was like the second or third hit, I actually made contact with one of the tripod legs. Now it was just like a grazing hit, so it wasn't like a full contact one. So there's no dents or anything on the tripod, and the phone is great. Yay, praise God. So this is what that sounded like. I love it. Listen to that again. It's actually a perfect sound to be used for something else, but that made me check my phone to make sure it was still working. So it did, and this was not the final shot. The heavy shot. This one was recorded after hitting it with the tripod. Okay, so moving on to the edit. Okay, so this is my edit so far. As you can see, I have the the 3D version going here, which is has to be rendered out in side-by-side format. And of course, I have the 2D one as well. And I did add a warning about 3D viewing. So I'll put more information in the post today about watching 3D and what kind of effects it has on your health and what you can do to minimize it if you do experience certain things. And so I'm not saying don't watch 3D, but I'm just saying don't make it your standard viewing, especially if it has some sort of an effect on your eyes, like strain, difficulty adjusting back, dizziness, nausea, disorientation, that sort of thing. Be careful. So let me show you what the new intro looks like. There you go, you see it. No, I'm kidding. So I'm just going to hide that and put it back over there. The goal is to do the 2D edit and the 3D edit at the exact same time, because that will allow me to produce a 3D one at the exact same time I'm doing the 2D one. Otherwise, it's just not practical. I don't have the time to go back and re-render everything in 3D, specially done. So I have to do everything together. It's the reason that I made certain choices, which we'll talk about after you've seen the new intro. That's it. That's just that 10 seconds from fade in to fade out. It's just to tell you what you're going to watch. That's it. It establishes location and it tells you what you're going to be seeing. So that's the whole point of this. The reason I felt led this way was because I have a playlist with all these animations in it. And if you want to watch all of them together, having super long intros for every single video kind of breaks the flow, So if it's just like 10 seconds, just establishes it, it still flows. You still get a sense of, okay, this is the next part, this is the next part, this is the next part. That's fine. But to have like a 5-minute intro is ridiculous for something like this. It really is. If it were like a series with episodes where it's every episode is like 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever, then you can have a theme or whatever. But these videos all differ in length. So it's just not practical. So another thing that I was talking about is visual choice. And that is the size of these fire pots that hang from the ceiling. Now, I don't have any direct evidence that they had fire pots hanging from the ceiling, but if you consider the fact that they're very easy to knock over and that it's much more practical to hang them on chains from the ceiling, and that the structure to be able to do it, it definitely makes more sense. Plus, it fits the decor. So I use fire pots in the throne room as well as in this intro. And the reason they're the size that they are is so that they actually look good in the 3D setup. The problem with the 3D setup I'm using, which is not Blender's tools, by the way, check the previous post, is that super fine details get lost because it's a conversion from 2D to 3D using depth information. So things like these lines over here, these chain lines over here, get flattened out and blurred with the background. So you don't see those. You only see major objects really stand out, like the pots and the fire. And of course, the title. So don't be surprised by this. It's not something strange. It's just the way it is. So I really do need to make sure that wherever the objects are, they are grouped, they are not pointy, like super finely detailed. and that the effect works well. So I do put in a lot of effort to make sure that everything works well before I render it out. The only thing I didn't check was the speed of the flames, which was really ironic because they made these really super strong displacement problems in the beginning where the fire would poke through the bottom of these pots. So when they finally looked right, I just rendered it out. It didn't matter much because it was like only like 25 frames, 25 seconds per frame. And we're talking full HD here, and it includes the 3D rendering too. It rendered out in 2D, anaglyph, and side by side at the exact same time. The anaglyph is purely just to see while it's rendering, so that I can see if I come and I check up on it that it's still working right, because my screen doesn't support, side by side conversion, whatever, on the fly at least. So yeah, this is really, really nice. I'm loving this. So I also worked on the depth map for the heart hardening. So I'm going to be showing you that next. Now, a lot of you guys remember the heart hardening animation. You can see that it's got these little frames and, all that kind of stuff. Just to kind of make it more interesting. The issue here is that this was before I felt led to also do a 3D version. Now, again, like in the previous post, I'm not making any promises that there will be a full 3D version at the end of this whole thing, because I don't know what's going to happen or not. I'm just saying that this is what I feel led to do. So, no promise. But anyway, so I worked on this week. This one rendered probably well over a month ago. This was before I even finished the storyboards and stuff. In fact, some of the storyboards were based on this design. So the only thing I had to do this week was work on the depth map for it. So I'm going to be showing you the scene, and then I'm going to be showing you the depth map. Okay, so the heart hardening scene looks like this. So you can imagine that this would make quite a difference in terms of the depth map. But I don't want it to, because I want to have the heart stand out, because that's the focus. And number two, I want to be able to transition this as being flat. I had a bit of a concern this week, but God already alleviated it. And that was in some of the scenes, I have transitions to and from certain videos. For example, there's one where Pharaoh's anger shows, and he transitions from this angered face to the heart hardening animation. But there is no issue. If I have the depth map, I can simply transition it in the scene and still have the 3D information. It's not the end of the world. So he alleviated those transition issues for me really quickly. There's just no excuse. No excuse. So this did require a little bit of fancy compositing. So I'm going to be showing you what this looks like. Okay, so this is our depth map. As you can see, it clearly distinguishes the rocks and, of course, the background. And you can see that there's no frame in this depth map. I used ID mask and material index to wipe it out. But as you can see, if I fade it slowly, you can tell that the rocks are perfectly aligned. Look at that. So just for the sake of interest, if you guys want to see this in 3D, now remember that video stores information differently than images do. So if you do see ghosting, it's not because the effect doesn't work, it's because of the way video stores information. It's also the reason I have to render it out side by side. Again, check previous post. Okay, so I just had to make a few adjustments to the final image. It was just a little bit too intense. So I'm going to be showing you the difference between the two. Okay, so this is the one without any adjustment to the depth map. You can see it kind of makes the center part of the heart point out way too far. So what I did is I just softened the transition just to reduce the sharpness so that it looks like this. Very subtle difference, but it just makes the heart look a little bit more rounded. So just to get rid of that pink flickering, I'm going to be setting it to grayscale. Yeah, that's much better, much easier on the eyes. And you can see that the zigzags are pushed into the background. and the heart looks like it's like mounted. It's really cool. So that's it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a great one, and God bless you.